The ocean was calm that morning, a thin mist floating over the blue horizon, waves breaking softly against the hull of a ship that carried more weight than steel. It carried a message. Across the South China Sea, an American destroyer moved silently through contested waters. Its radar screens glowed green, its crew alert but composed. They'd been here before, but this time, something was different. Thousands of miles away, inside a Chinese naval command center, alarms began to flash. A voice over the intercom cut through the noise: unidentified vessel approaching restricted waters. Officers leaned forward, scanning their monitors. The shape was familiar, a U.S. warship. The message went out, calm but firm: U.S. vessel, you are entering Chinese territorial waters. Leave immediately. But the American ship did not turn. Its engines rumbled, slicing through the waves like a blade. Then, in a low, steady voice, the reply came: this is the United States Navy. We are operating in accordance with international law. The silence that followed was heavy, electric. Every man on deck knew that in this moment, the slightest move could shift the balance of the world's greatest rivalry. The South China Sea, a place of beauty, wealth, and danger. Beneath its calm surface lies a battlefield of politics, power, and pride. It's one of the most important waterways on the planet. Every year, over $3 trillion worth of trade passes through these routes. But for China, this isn't just about trade, it's about sovereignty. It's about control. Using a sweeping claim known as the Nine-Line, China marks nearly the entire sea as its own. The problem: those same waters are claimed by the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and even Taiwan. And then, there's America, a country with no territorial claim here, yet one that sees itself as the guardian of international law. Washington insists these are open waters, free for all nations to navigate. Beijing insists they're not. And when two superpowers with opposing beliefs meet at sea, the waves themselves seem to hold their breath. That's exactly what happened in August 2025. The USS Ralph Johnson, an Arleigh-Burke-class destroyer armed with guided missiles, sailed near the Scarborough Shoal, a reef that both China and the Philippines claim as their own. It wasn't the first time an American ship had done this, but it was the boldest. The Chinese Navy was watching. Within minutes, their Coast Guard vessels appeared on radar, closing the distance fast. Unidentified vessel, you are entering Chinese waters, the radio repeated. Turn back immediately. But the American ship held course. The two sides were now locked in a silent standoff, their steel hulls glinting under the sun, their intentions hidden behind calm voices and coded transmissions. On the Chinese side, 3 vessels formed a line, blocking the destroyer's path. Cameras on both ships captured the moment, just a few hundred meters separating them. The ocean between them felt like a fuse waiting to ignite. Then, in a sudden maneuver, one Chinese vessel cut directly across the bow of the American ship, passing within 150 meters, close enough for sailors to see faces on the other deck. The tension was unbearable, but neither fired, neither backed down. Hours later, Chinese state media declared victory. Headlines flashed across screens: China forces U.S. warship out of its waters. The message spread fast, nationalist pride filling the airwaves. But across the Pacific, the U.S. Navy issued its own statement. The USS Ralph Johnson completed its freedom of navigation mission. No Chinese interference. 2 completely different stories. 2 completely different truths. And the world was left to wonder, who was really in control? Behind the headlines, both governments scrambled to respond. In Beijing, officials accused the U.S. of provocation. The United States continues to violate China's sovereignty, one spokesman declared. We will defend our territory with all necessary measures. In Washington, the Pentagon fired back. China's claims have no legal basis under international law. The South China Sea is not owned by anyone. Words turned into warnings, and warnings turned into preparation. Military satellites from both nations watched the sea closely. Fighter jets from China's Hainan Island began daily patrols. U.S. carriers in the Pacific adjusted their routes. Everyone was moving carefully, every step measured, every decision deliberate. Because here, one wrong calculation could mean global chaos. Experts called it a power test. China was pushing boundaries, testing how far it could go before America reacted. For Beijing, the goal was to normalize its control, to make its presence so constant that no one could challenge it. For Washington, the goal was to show that no nation, not even China, could close the sea. Each believed they were protecting freedom. Each saw the other as the threat. Meanwhile, China was building, not just ships, but islands. In the past decade, it had transformed reefs into military bases, complete with airstrips, radar towers, and missile sites. From the air, they looked like tropical paradises. But on the ground, they were fortresses. The South China Sea was no longer just water, it had become a chessboard of power. And every move mattered. Soon after the Scarborough incident, another encounter shook the region. A U.S. reconnaissance plane flying near the Paracel Islands was intercepted by two Chinese jets. One flew dangerously close, just 10 meters away, before veering off. It was another message: "We're watching you." In return, the U.S. Navy announced new patrols, sending multiple destroyers through the same waters China claimed. It wasn't just defiance, it was a declaration that America would not be intimidated. Allies began taking sides. The Philippines, backed by its own territorial disputes, openly supported the U.S. Japan and Australia echoed the same call: freedom of navigation must be defended. Russia, meanwhile, sided with China, accusing the U.S. of military arrogance. The global divide was clear. And yet, behind every statement and satellite image, there were men and women on those ships, sailors who stood on deck at night, watching the sea stretch endlessly ahead, knowing that somewhere beyond the horizon, another ship was watching them too. They didn't talk politics. They didn't need to. They just knew that if things went wrong, they'd be the first to face it. Every night, the ocean was quiet, until radar screens lit up again. New signals, new shadows moving across the map. China was increasing patrols. So was the U.S. Each mission was called routine. But everyone knew it wasn't. It was psychological warfare, an unspoken contest of endurance. Weeks later, satellite photos revealed something alarming: a line of 5 Chinese Coast Guard vessels shadowing a single U.S. destroyer. One came within 100 meters, closer than ever before. The footage went viral. Analysts warned that this kind of close shadowing could easily end in disaster. All it takes is one wave, one engine failure, one mistake, a retired admiral said. And then it's too late. But for now, both sides pulled back, barely. No collision, no shots fired. Just silence, the kind that comes before the next storm. Around the world, reactions poured in. News outlets speculated whether this was the beginning of a new Cold War. Diplomats urged restraint, but in private, military planners from both sides prepared for what might come next. War games were run. Simulations modeled how a single naval skirmish could escalate into a regional conflict. The results weren't pretty. For the first time in decades, the world's oceans didn't feel free, they felt fragile. And the South China Sea was the most fragile of all. Days turned into weeks, but the tension never really faded. The USS Ralph Johnson completed its patrol and returned to base, but not before one final transmission was logged: mission complete. No interference. It was a simple message, but it carried a deeper meaning: America wasn't stepping back. China, meanwhile, responded in kind. New naval drills began, larger, louder, more aggressive. Footage showed fleets of warships firing live missiles into the sea. A subtle reminder: we're ready. And then, just days later, Beijing announced the deployment of hypersonic anti-ship missiles along its southern coast. It wasn't an accident. It was a warning. The South China Sea was now alive, buzzing with military activity, spy planes, and submarines moving unseen beneath the waves. Every country in the region watched nervously, praying that neither giant made a mistake. Because a mistake here would not stay here. It would echo across the entire world. Late one night, aboard a U.S. destroyer, a young sailor looked out over the dark horizon. He could see faint lights in the distance, another ship, maybe Chinese, maybe not. He didn't know. He just knew that one wrong signal, one misread radar blip, could turn that quiet night into chaos. For now, it remained peaceful. But peace in the South China Sea isn't the absence of conflict, it's the pause between confrontations. Experts say the battle for control here isn't about who fires first, it's about who can endure longer. Power, patience, and pride, that's the real war being fought. And neither side shows signs of giving up. As the sun rises over the Pacific, 2 flags fly over 2 distant ships, one with stars and stripes, the other with 5 golden ones. Both claim they are defending freedom. Both are convinced they are right. And between them lies an ocean, calm on the surface, but beneath, boiling with tension. The South China Sea has become the stage for a new kind of warfare, one without missiles, without declarations, but filled with strategy, technology, and willpower. A battle fought not just for territory, but for dominance over the future. And as the world watches, one question lingers: how long can two giants stare across the same waters before one finally blinks?